Hey everyone, welcome to another video on our Java series. In this video, we will be looking onto some concepts in Java like operators, methods with return type, and typecasting. So I will just create an example to show how these things works. Alright, so for that purpose, I am just going to create a class called operations. And within this operations class, I am going to create a method, let's say void sum function for calculating sum of two numbers. So let's say I want to print the sum of two numbers, then I will be giving something like sysout a plus b. Now I have to define these two variables a and b. Integer number a is given as 10 and int b is given as 20. Alright, so if I have to call that sum function, what should I do? I should create an object of this operations class. For that, I am going to use the new keyword, new operations functions. So I have created an object dot sum function. Yeah, so this would print the sum of those two numbers a and b, right? So I am just going to run this, and you can observe the output in the console, that is 30. So this is how normally we will be doing addition in Java by using plus operator, right? So if I want to do multiplication, what should I do? I can use the star operation. Similarly, for subtraction, I can use negative. For division, I can use bar. For obtaining the remainder, I can use the modulus. So similarly, you can use all these operations as per your need. And there is also some other operators like increment and decrement operators. And when it comes to incrementation and decrementation, there are two types of operators available, that is post incrementation operator and pre-incrementation operator. So it's just in the name, right? All you have to do is that just go with the flow. So here what I am doing is that I am just printing the number, and after that I am incrementing it. So that is the post incrementation. Post printing the number, the incrementation will be happening. So that's how post incrementation works. All right, so here what happens, what will be printed, onto the console? If I print this, what will happen? If I call the sum function, what will be the output? Will it be 10 or 11? So as per the logic that I have discussed with you, what happens is that first a will be printed, which obviously is 10. After that, it will be incremented to 11. So if I execute it, definitely the output is going to be 10. Fine. Similarly, yeah, if you want to make sure that it works, I will print it again, a. So at this line, in line number 9, what is happening? The value of a is 10, that will be printed, and then it is incremented to 11, which means for now the value of a is 11. So if I print it again in line number 10, the value of a will be printed as 11. So I will just execute it. You can see how it works, right? Whereas there is pre-incrementation operator, that is this plus plus comes before the variable. So what happens here? First the number will be incremented and then only it will be printed. So just remember it like that. So as and when this plus operator changes its position, just remember that if plus comes before, first incrementation happens and then it will be printed. If it is coming after, first it will be printed and then only it will be incremented. So if I execute it, what will be the output? It will be 11 and 11. Yeah. So these are basically some of the mostly used operators in Java. Anyway, moving ahead, we can just go back to our a plus b, our sum operation. Fine, I will just remove this. So fine, okay. So what if let's say instead of printing it directly within the sum function, I want to obtain the sum of some random values or some user generated values. Okay, that's the right thing. I want to get the sum of user generated values. As of now, my program is highly static. What it means is that my program is not accepting any user variables, right? It's like hard code. These values 10 and 20 are hard coded to my code, so it's highly static. Instead, I should have a way by which the user can supply some values as per their requirement towards the sum function. Instead of this 10 and 20, they should be able to get the sum of 5 and 7, or 100 and 200. Whatever they require, they should be able to do that. And in Java, that can be done with the help of method arguments. Yeah, that is, I can enable my sum function to accept parameters. I just have to specify it using this. I'm saying that this is a method name, that is sum function. So within the braces, within the function braces or the method braces, I am specifying two variables, int a and int b. This means that my sum function is accepting two integer variables. So at the time of this method calling, that is when I try to call the sum function, I can pass in the values for this variables a and b. That is here in line number 15, when I am trying to call the sum function using an object of this operations class, I can just plug in the values that needs to be passed on to the variables a and b. So let's say that I want to get the sum of 5 and 7. This is how I'll be doing that. So what happens here, when my compiler reaches line number 15, he sees that okay, I'm creating an object of operations class. Then using that object, I am making a call towards the sum function, and within the function braces, what am I doing? I am passing the method variables, method parameters. So what my compiler quickly does is that he will just come to my operations class and check if there is a method who is capable of accepting two integer values. As in our case, there is a method who is capable of accepting those two values. So those two values get supplied to these two defined variables. And these variables that will be defined within the method braces are termed as local variables, whereas the variables of a class are termed as instance variables. Just a point worth noting. Anyway, so this 5 and 7 gets plugged into A and B. As a result, in line number 8, when this is getting printed, what happens? A plus B is equivalent to 5 plus 7. So when I execute this, the sum of 5 and 7 will be printed. Yes. So this is how you will be passing values to a class method. I hope that is clear. Okay, now let's say that instead of printing it right away, I want to obtain the output. That is, instead of printing 12 onto the console, I want to access that result, and let's say that I want to double the result. If that is the requirement, then there should be a way by which I should be able to access the output of the sum function. And that can be done with the help of return keyword. So by using the return keyword, I can specify any values that needs to be passed from the sum function. In my case, I want to pass in the output of the sum function, that is a plus b. So all I have to do is that I can specify it here, return a plus b. So that sum will be returned. Either you can directly return it like this, or you can just go ahead and create a variable like, let's say, in sum is equal to a plus b and return that variables. Both works. Okay, so if you want to keep it simple, int sum equal to a plus b, and you can pass this created variable, that is also fine, or you can directly pass it, whichever seems appealing to you. All right, fine. Now what happens is that I have already told you that a method without return type is mentioned using void. As of now, my method wasn't returning anything. That is why void worked. But now my method is trying to return some value. That is the sum of a and b. And I know that the type of a and b is integer. So definitely the sum of this a and b will also be an integer, right? Which means this method sum function is returning a integer value. Now instead of void, I should be specifying that the return type of my sum function, which is of type integer, right? So now when my object of operations class make a call towards the sum function, what happens? He will be obtaining a value, the value that is the integer value that is being returned by the sum function. So if I want to use it, I can store it into a variable, result equal to, what will be the type of this variable? Int, right? Because that is the type of value returned by my uh, what happened here? Oops, sorry. Yeah. So that is the type of value that is being returned by the sum function. All right, fine. Now what next? Let's print the output. As I told, we want to do some processing over the obtained output. Let's say I'm just going to multiply it with 2. Now I am going to execute it. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so I have obtained the output and I have done some processing over it. So if that is your requirement, if you want to obtain the output, you have to go with the method that returns some value. So this is how a method with a return type is defined. I hope that much is clear to you all. Now let's consider that instead of passing this integer numbers, I was passing double values. So what happens now? My method sum function is passing double values, so which means that there should be a sum function within my operations class which should be accepting double values. As of now, there is a sum function which is accepting two integer values. So what should I do? I should change this as double A and double B, and the sum would be of type double, which means my method is returning a value of type double, so I should specify it as the return type. So here this method call would result in a returning of a double value. So definitely this result should also be double value if we have to handle double values. Okay, so this is how you will be creating methods of return type, and this is how you will be passing values to a method in Java. Now let's say that instead of this double, I am trying to pass in float. Okay, I am trying to pass in float values. But now it is not throwing any error. It is not asking me to change the double to float. Why? So it is mostly equivalent to me trying to do something like double D is equal to 2.0f. Basically it's equivalent to this. I am trying to store a float value onto a double variable, but it is not causing any problem. It is not causing any error. I'm able to execute this code. Why is this happening? This is because of a phenomenon called typecasting. Typecasting. So what is typecasting? Typecasting is a process of converting a value of one data type to another data type. In our case, the value 2.0 f was a float value, and that got converted to double value and stored to the double variable. And this type of typecasting that has been done implicitly by the compiler is called implicit typecasting. Fine. But what happened previously? What happened previously when I tried to store a double value to a float variable 2.0? Yeah, this is causing a problem. So what is the difference here? Why is there no typecasting happening here? So I will explain that with the help of an example. Yeah, I will just open the paint. So here you can see what is happening. Here I have created two figures. Here this first figure is representing a float variable, whereas the second figure is representing a double variable. The thing is, the range of values is different for float and double. Float will be used for storing values of lower range, and double is used for storing decimal values of higher range, right? So let's say that this is my float number. Okay, now I want to convert float to double. Okay, I am pouring the entire thing that was available in the float variable to double. It is completely okay, it will be completely satisfied, and it will be there, no problem, right? So for such a situation, when I try to convert a value of lower data type to a value of higher data type, what happens? Compiler will implicitly do the typecasting for me, because there is no data loss associated. The entire data in float has been successfully transferred to the double variable. But whereas if I try to convert a double value to a float value, what happens? A part of it will be converted or collected to the float variable, but a part of the double variable will be lost, right? data loss is associated. So when data loss is associated, compiler won't get his hands dirty. All right. So when data loss is associated, he won't do the typecasting for us. But there is a way to do the typecasting even if compiler is not doing that for us. That is, if we are okay with the data loss, then we can go ahead and say that to the compiler by doing the typecasting explicitly by ourselves. I can say that, okay, even though the data loss is associated, it's fine. You just go ahead and do the conversion, and that is called explicit typecasting. Fine. So implicit typecasting is when you try to convert, I mean, when you try to store a value of lower data type to a value to a variable of higher data type, because there won't be any data loss, so compiler will do that for you. Whereas when you try to store a value of higher data type to a variable of lower data type, the typecasting won't happen. The compiler won't do it for you because data loss is associated. So you can go ahead and do explicit typecasting if it is required. Fine. So those are the concepts of typecastings. So in this video, we have discussed about operators in Java, methods with return type, how to pass values to a method in Java, typecasting. These are very simple concepts, yet mostly used concepts in Java. And I hope these concepts are clear to you all. So that's it. That's all I got for this video. I hope you guys were able to learn and understand something new from this video. Until next video, it's your friend Sajin, and have a great day.